Transformers is a unique case in the history of the film industry. This franchise managed to fill up cinemas and earn billions of dollars, being fiercely criticized, shot by one of the most scandalous directors of our time, who received more than one nomination for the Golden Raspberry. So, what is the secret of the famous franchise? What mistakes did Michael Bay make in its creation? And why did he desperately want to get rid of the director's role, despite the opportunity to get a lot of money? Welcome to the About Movies channel. Today we're talking about the ups and downs of the Autobot and Decepticon universe. We hope you are ready, and we are starting. The history of the creation of Transformers began with toys. There were ordinary children's toys, and the simple idea that good wins over evil. The evil in this situation is the bloodthirsty Decepticons, and the heroic Autobots are good. The awesomeness of this whole story is added by the fact that Transformers can turn into sports cars, tanks, and fighter jets. Therefore, it is not surprising that in the late 80s, such toys became wildly popular. Comics followed them, and TV series began to film. In the same period, a multi-series cartoon of the same name was released, which warmed up the fanbase. But in fact, this cartoon was more like a long commercial. Well, by the early 2000s, interest in the series began to fall bit by bit. The Hasbro company, which earned money on toys, understood that they were losing money and something had to be done about it. The best way was to shoot a big-budget film adaptation, which was supposed to be a kind of promo design for a future series of dolls. There were rumors about the filming of a movie about Transformers, but only technological capabilities did not allow this to be done. When the first information about the upcoming filming by Paramount Pictures appeared in 2004, this made a splash among fans. The idea again got a second wind, and began to be actively discussed on various fan forums. In 2004, Steven Spielberg joined the project as an executive producer. The whole idea of enmity between Transformers needed to present in a familiar and understandable way for the viewer. This is what Spielberg did, offering a simple idea for the script of the first film. There is a guy, his car, and lots of action. For such a task, a suitable director was needed. Spielberg saw Michael Bay as such one. By this time, the latter had already gained a reputation as a music video maker and a person who knew how to shoot a spectator movie with spectacular techniques. There were movies like, for example, Armageddon and Pearl Harbor. However, Bay has earned a negative reputation too, especially among critics who considered his works too expressive and far from reality. They say that initially Bay did not want to take up the film adaptation of the Toy Story, but Spielberg and his idea turned out to be convincing for him, and after visiting the Hasbro company, he allegedly imbued with respect for the universe and decided to try. The fact that the studio promised the director full creative control added motivation. 10 different scripts were written for the film, and the pre-production lasted for several years. Actors for the main roles began to look in advance. Therefore, the studio gave Bay the control of Transformers, a bag of money, and began to wait for what would come of it. Before we start breakdowning of the parts and evaluating their quality, write your own assessment of the franchise in the comments, and we'll see if it matches the general opinion. The screenwriters were Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman. They both wrote scripts for such films as The Island, The Legend of Zorro, and Mission Impossible 3. The film received huge support from the U.S. Department of Defense. The team was provided for filming not only military bases and equipment, but also real planes, and even soldiers for extras. Bay was so imbued with the work that he even gave about 30% of his fee to have more money for filming. Given the modest budget of the film, they decided to save on the actors. Bay personally was casting them and initially did not want to take Shia LaBeouf for the role, as he considered the actor too old for a schoolboy and not suitable for the story. But LaBeouf was able to persuade the director. He put on a school uniform and pretended to be a teenager, which impressed Bay. Megan Fox got the female role. By that time, she had big problems in her career and was willing to star in anything. So, they say that the only condition was her name in the credits. And Tyrese Gibson later claimed that he even had to pay the producers for the role. The only one who received a more or less good fee was Shia LaBeouf, who was bullied and humiliated during filming. So, the scenes with the dogs that attacked his character was real. And while LaBeouf was trying to save his feet and had already played the episode, Bay did not hurry to stop filming and just watched what was happening. Later, it turned out that the director deliberately wanted to scare the actor as much as possible for the realism of the picture. The work lasted 83 days on the territory of the USA, which also saved the project funds. The special effects were done by Industrial Light and Magic Studio, which for another 6 months brought the result of filming for the final version on computers, whose power had to be significantly increased due to the complexity of the design and the detail of the characters. So, Ironhide's hand consisted of 17 parts, and his weapon had 10,000 parts. As a result, it took as much as 38 hours to render each shot. The world was waiting impatiently for the result to be released. Finally, it happened. In 2007, the first movie appeared on the screens, which marked the beginning of one of the highest-grossing film franchises, collecting $709 million. Hasbro has achieved what it wanted and sold a record number of toys in its history. The film won 4 awards from the Visual Effects Society and was nominated for 3 Academy Awards. According to some critics, the first part of Transformers was the most successful in artistic terms. In this part, the creators were still focused on the story. It had to have a meaning and a plot, and not just a set of special effects.
I screwed that up. I'm okay. I'm alright.
This is combat, man.
Oh, brain freeze, man.
What's wrong with you?
The second film, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, released 2 years later, had already begun to lose ground. Aaron Kruger, who was very fond of writing horror films and had some experience in this, also joined the usual screenwriters. We know him from the films Scream 3, The Ring, The Skeleton Key, and others. After the dizzying success of the first part, naturally the studio wanted to make the second one in a short time. Therefore, the film was shot according to sketches that the screenwriter managed to make in a couple of weeks. Bay would complain about that later, arguing the reason for what went wrong. Robert Pattinson even auditioned for the role, which he admitted later in an interview with GQ. The actor tried to make an American accent so that he would not be recognized, but the plan failed. They'd always question it. We're worried about the accent. So I used to always come in as a different person, an American. I'd say, "Hi, I'm from Michigan." And as a result of the work of the team led by Michael Bay, the second part came out weak and had mostly negative reviews. So on the website Rotten Tomatoes, the average rating was 3.5 out of 10. Revenge of the Fallen received 7 nominations for the Golden Raspberry, 3 of which it won. Basically, the criticism was about the plot itself. Instead of an interesting story, the audience received a cumbersome and confusing movie consisting of special effects and strange jokes. Already at this stage, it became clear that something was wrong. For the director, films have become an opportunity to embody in one place everything he loves. There were beautiful cars, beautiful women, explosions, and more explosions. And of course, spectacular shots. The plot and the robots themselves interested Bay less. But bad reviews did not prevent the film from collecting a huge box office of $836 million after its release. Thus, the picture exceeded the revenues of the first part. The creation of the third film was mainly done by the same team with the exception of screenwriters Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, who left for the Star Trek franchise. Another loss was Megan Fox, who quarreled with Michael Bay and called him Hitler. Michael Bay was allegedly displeased that the actress lost weight between the first and second picture. Another reason for the conflict was the provocative angles from which she was filmed. But as it turned out later, the real reason for Megan's absence on the set of the third part was Steven Spielberg. After another interview with the girl in which she compared the leadership with fascists, she allegedly called Bay and demanded that Megan be fired. Another actress, or rather supermodel, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, was invited to play the role of the main character's lover. After the previous part's criticism, the director said that he wanted to reconsider the approach and make the film with a deeper meaning and more seriousness. Bay admitted that the previous part disappointed fans and doesn't want the third one to be lousy. According to him, the film should have been more accessible because of shooting in the city, or rather in Chicago, and because the story was about a small group of heroes. Like the previous parts, Transformers Dark of the Moon told first of all a story about people, which was supposed to attract viewers. Many involved in the filming recalled that Bay had changed in earnest, establishing a real dictatorship. The world was able to get acquainted with Transformers Dark of the Moon in 2011. Bay's attempts to change the approach to Transformers failed. The film could not overcome the shortcomings of the previous parts. It was called spectacular, but stupid, and the main characters were boring and unconvincing. Roger Ebert gave the film 1 out of 4 stars, criticizing its visual effects, plot, characters, and dialogues. The film was nominated for Golden Raspberry, but this time, in 8 categories, including Worst Film and Worst Director. But at the same time, the box office went through the roof, collecting more than $1 billion. It is unknown whether the reviews influenced the director's decisions, but after the release of the third part, Bay said that he would not return to the franchise and would limit himself to 3 parts. According to him, he was tired of this topic and wanted to switch to something else. The director tried to leave the franchise and began work on another project, a black comedy about hapless jocks. What do you think this film has? Of course, it has expensive cars, beautiful women, and explosions. However, his pause without Transformers was not long, and it was all because the box office success of Transformers played a cruel joke with Bay. They didn't want to let him leave the franchise and offered a lot of money to him. The studio had another ace in the hole. Paramount promised the director that if he continued to participate in shooting Transformers, they would finance any 2 of his films with an adult rating. In an interview with Unilad, the director said that he probably should have stopped, as Steven Spielberg advised him. "I made too many of them," Bay said. Steven Spielberg said, "Just stop at 3. And I said I'd stop. The studio begged me to do a 4th, and then that made $1 billion too. And then I said I'm going to stop here, and they begged me again. I should have stopped, but they were fun to do." In 2014, fans were able to see the continuation of the story about their favorite heroes, named Transformers: Age of Extinction. The director's new approach implied that the new part would be significantly different from the previous ones.
At last, there is hope after all.
The main storyline will take place in space, and the actors will be replaced by others. Most of the action scenes were filmed live. The director decided to make all the explosions, accidents, and shootings as natural as possible. We are sure that the actors were delighted. The main role was given to Mark Wahlberg. He's one of the few actors who did not criticize working with Bay, commenting that he likes working with the director, but he needs to be extremely focused on the set with him. The reason for participating in the franchise, he called this, "I wish I could say that it's all for the sake of my kids who adore Transformers, but it's not. In fact, I filmed because of Michael Bay. I really liked our joint experience in shooting Pain and Gain. He knows how to do the best way to work." The film also collected a good box office. It got more than $1 billion, although it could not outbid the previous part. The 5th film, Transformers: The Last Knight, which the audience saw in 2017, finished the classic film franchise. Bay immediately stated that this would be his last work on the universe because he wanted to do other projects. Wahlberg also said the same thing, arguing that he did not like his hairstyle and was tired of exhausting physical training. According to the director, he tried to make the film deeper in terms of the main storyline. It's more adventurous, and it is also important that Bay made it possible to develop the story in different variations. But the film did not meet expectations, collecting only $605 million, and such a failure at the box office became critical. By the time of the release of the 4th, and even more so the 5th part, it was clear that both Michael Bay himself and the viewer were tired of the franchise, and it slowly but surely was losing ground. And after the picture collected less than the first film, the studio had to admit that both the director and the franchise had exhausted themselves. Bay left the project, and by the time this video was created, he had not returned to the filming of the Transformers. It was the complexity of the drawing and such detail that played a cruel joke with the franchise. The filmmakers decided to update the characters' images and slightly overdid it. The pursuit of realism deprived robots of individuality. Millions of details created every part of the body of robot characters. As a result, it became difficult to distinguish them from each other in the film. And Michael Bay's love for redundancy and strong saturation of the picture led to the fact that Transformers turned into a flickering screen mess, where barely distinguishable robots quickly replaced each other on the screen. During Transformers: Age of Extinction, it was an attempt to change the situation, but as it turned out, it was impossible to get rid of the established image. Similar metamorphoses happened with the characters of the main Transformers. The loss of individuality manifested itself here. In fact, the only bright character that the audience remembered was Bumblebee. The same can be said about Optimus Prime, although with the development of the plot, the hero began to lose his positive appearance under the mix of realism and gloom. He has become more like Count Dracula, who enjoys destroying enemies. All this caused indignation among fans. But while the franchise was a cash cow, it must be fully used. Therefore, the studio made some conclusions from previous problems and released a solo movie about Bumblebee. They tried to return to its origins and play on the nostalgia of the audience. The original design of the characters has returned, and the story which told, what do you think it was about? About the relationship of a girl and her car was simplified. The new film was directed by Travis Knight. The film received good reviews, but without excitement. The picture collected only $467 million, which was significantly less than even the last failed part under the leadership of Bay received. Not so long ago, in 2022, Paramount Studio presented its plans for the future, and of course, could not ignore Transformers. The waning interest of viewers in the universe of alien robots did not confuse the studio, because potentially it can still make a profit. At the same time, judging from the release, the studio's ambitions are still huge, and they will try to breathe new life into the franchise. Who knows, maybe we will live to see the moment when Transformers begin to turn not only into cars and planes, but also into trains. Recently, the studio published the news that the 6th film of the Transformers series is coming with the subtitle Rise of the Beasts, scheduled for the summer of 2023. Moreover, it will be the first film of the new trilogy. According to existing information, the picture is planned as a sequel to Bumblebee and will focus on the story of Optimus Prime. The studio decided to go the way of everything new is well forgotten old, and defer the visual style of Bay, returning to both Bumblebee and Optimus a more classic appearance. Michael Bay should be replaced by Stephen Caple Jr., who specializes in dramas and sitcoms. However, only one of his major projects can be considered successful. It is Creed 2, which made its budget back and even earned extra money. According to sources, the script will be based on the animated series Transformers Beast Wars, which was released from 1996 to 1999. In the animated series, robots could transform not only into modern cars and other equipment, but also into various animals, from cheetah to tarantula. And in addition to the classic types of robots, viewers will get acquainted with Predacons, Maximals, and Terrorcons. The film's producer, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, stated, "We wanted to give the audience a lot of new. Part of the new news, if you've seen the other movies, you're going to see villains you've never seen before and a lot of elements we've never done before." Events will unfold in 1994 in New York and some cities in Peru. The main roles will be played by Dominique Fishbach and Anthony Ramos, who have been friends since college and even worked together on a student play. But that's not all. The studio is serious and presented the release of an animated series of 26 episodes about Transformers. The project will be exclusive to Nickelodeon, and a new kind of Transformers will be in the center of the plot. We can only hope that the creators of the new trilogy will draw conclusions from the mistakes of their predecessors, at least in relation to the actors. Who knows, maybe it was the bullying on the set of Transformers that so affected the psyche of Shia LaBeouf. It was while working with Michael Bay that he became the hero of the yellow press and began to break the law. So what happened to the young and promising actor? Is his condition related to a mental disorder, or is it just a way to attract attention to himself? For example, at the premiere of Nymphomaniac, he appeared with a brown bag on his head on which the phrase, "I'm not famous anymore," was printed. Maybe his eccentric antics are just a philosophy of life. Click on the icon that appears on your screen and watch more details. For now, we say goodbye. Subscribe to the channel and don't miss our new videos. About Movies was with you. Bye-bye.